Hey guys, so I'm really excited to show you this video today because I'm going to be swapping out my Jeep JLU plastic front bumper for the Fab Four's stubby bumper. This one right here. And we'll get going on the install and I'll show you the parts that are included and everything that you need for that install. We'll get going right now. I want to show you. Okay, so we got the Fab Four stubby bumper in, and in the box, came the bumper itself, pretty plain. It was a little scratched up, but I think that's because it's, really heavy, item, and shipping it, it gets banged around. But so the box really wasn't much. It was just kind of in this cloth bag. So was the winch plate. The winch plate came with it, and same with some instructions and some small hardware pieces. The bolts are on the back side of the bumper already installed, but it did not come with any D-rings. So yeah, let's get going. So while the bumper was still off, I want to show you what the inside of the bumper looked like. You can see, starting with the middle, this is the locations for your lights, your factory LEDs. It looks like this top portion right here, is a good spot for if you were going to mount like a cube light for that location. So they give you two options, I believe. On this side, you can see that they actually have the bolts that are going to mount to the frame, just welded in. So I'm pretty sure this is, like they said in the description, this easy install. You probably just slide this thing right on and then use the included hardware, once you put it on the washer, that little washer, spring washer, and the nut, and you're good to go. One other thing I want to show you real quick was on the sides of the bumper, there's this little wine glass shape etched out, and I had called Fab Four and I asked them, what that was for, and they told me that it's on both sides for if you wanted to run a mount for your high lift jack across the top of your front bumper. I thought it was for like, if you want to add an extension to make this stubby bumper a full length bumper or mid, but it looks like it's just for the high lift jack mount. I'm not sure where that is, where you can purchase that, but apparently that's what it's used for. Okay, so I just want to show you what came in the hardware kit right here that was provided in the package. You get 8 of these 7/16 hex nuts. You get 8 of the flat washers, and you get 8 of the lock washers. And then those are for mounting the bumper to the frame of your car. These are, you get 12 of the zinc flat washers, 6 of the nylock hex nuts, and 6 of the button head cap bolts. Those are for your fog lights. So you'll use 3 bolts, 6 washers, and 3 nuts to secure your factory fog lights. Alright, so now you're going to want to set your plastic bumper down on something nice so it won't get scratched up. You never know if you want to reinstall this again later or resell it if it's still in good condition. You're going to start by removing this plastic housing right here to access your fog lights on both sides. And what you're going to have to do is remove those hex bolts. I think there's 7 of them. There could be 8. I'm missing one down there because I already took one out. But you're going to want to use a 7mm socket to remove all 7 of those. One thing I will mention is when you are taking these screws out, make sure you take them out pretty gently because they can pop out. I did have one of the screws that's like a bolt pop out on me, and so I can't reuse that, which is fine. It only happened to one of them. So it'll be fine me putting that housing back on, but if you do want to reuse it, just make sure you're being careful with that. Okay, once you have that housing off, now you're going to want to remove these 4 bolts right there with a what is this? A 13 millimeter socket. I'm using a deep socket and an extension just for some clearance. Okay, so now that we have that panel taken out, you can see that that's where all the, wiring harness was hidden for the fog lights. Now, what we're gonna do is take a T20, little star Torx bit, and you're gonna take out these 3 bolts right here. And then you should be able to pull everything out, pull all the wiring out, and have your wiring harness back. And then I'm gonna put all this back together off camera just because I want it together just in case I decide to resell. So I'm actually using a little pry tool to get these out. They are like little zip tie Christmas tree plugs. So you can't just pull them out by hand or else, you might risk damaging the wiring harness. I mean, you could, but I'm not gonna risk it. So just get a little, pry tool like that, slip it in there, and then pop them out. Just like that. Just go all the way across, and then undo the 3 bolts in that one, and you'll have your wiring harness. Okay, so I just realized that I do not have the right halogen fog lights. I actually have the LED fog lights, so you might want to check that before you do anything with removing them out of your front bumper. You can tell because it's got a little LED up, just below that cap. And the reason why it makes a difference is because you can see that the bumper is designed to have those, 3 contact points that match that, the molding on that one, whereas this one's totally different. It has 2 on one side and then 1 on the other. And you try to drop that in there, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I could get 1, maybe. That's just wouldn't be secure. So, looks like I'm gonna have to install this without any fog lights. But if you did have the halogen ones, install it just like the instructions say, with those, 3 bolts, the 6 washers, and the 3 nylock nuts. Slip one right onto that mounting bracket, and then zip tie the wiring harness all up to this little knob right here, so it keeps it all condensed and nice, and then run the wiring harness to the plug on your vehicle on the bottom right there. So yeah, regardless, I'll get started on just installing the front bumper. Okay, so what I had to do was I had to loosen this bumper support bracket right here. It wasn't very hard at all. It is hard to access, but you'll just use a 16 millimeter socket to do that. Do that on that side and on the other side. Do that for both left and right side of the bumper. And then once you do that, you can easily slide your bumper back on. And then you can get underneath, immediately try to put a bolt on there just so nothing rattles off and falls on you. But then once you do, you can put a washer down, and then a little spring washer, and then you can put your nut right on top of that. Finger tight on all of them, and then go around in a crisscross pattern to tighten. I'm gonna finger tight all these for both sides, and then I'm gonna go and snug them down, crisscross pattern, all sides, and then I'm gonna take my torque wrench and set these to 60 pounds per feet torque for these, and then tighten that back up to snug. I think it was like 16 pounds per feet, but I'll verify that. The other thing I want to show you is that it is really easy to access. If I wanted to install fog lights or LEDs, just from underneath the car, you don't need to take the bumper off to install those. So just as an FYI, and also for the winch plate too, this is easy access if you wanted to install that in the future. One more thing I will do is this little plug right here for the fog lights. I'll probably wrap this in plastic or, you know, some black electric tape, you know, just so that no water's kicking up and getting into the open wires right there. So I'll close that off just to protect it until I get something in its place. All right, and that'll wrap it up for the install of that Fab Fours stubby front bumper on the Jeep JLU. As you can see, that's a good shot of the front. I'll kind of give a walk around so you can see it from all angles. So you can see it kind of pokes out a little bit, it kind of has that stinger look, but it's nothing terribly aggressive, but it is certainly, I think, pretty cool. D-rings that you're going to want to get for this, because since it doesn't come included, are the 3/4 inch D-rings with the 7/8 inch pins. And then I'm going to mount my license plate and we'll be good to go. But yeah, overall, not a bad install. I think the hardest part was actually taking off the plastic factory front bumper, and then, you know, make sure that you have, you know, all sorts of different socket sizes, you know, deep sockets, you know, the different crescent wrenches, breaker bars, as well as, you know, a torque wrench, so you're measuring everything correctly when you're torquing it down. Yeah, you should have no problem installing this on your own. You know, I did it by myself, and it just takes some patience, but anyone can do it. So yeah, thanks for watching.